And we're live. Welcome, welcome. Good morning, everyone, to this morning's meditation. I am Kari. Yes, this is the moment we have been moving through the Metatron code of dimensional coherence. I want to preface today's meditation. We're going to be working the Metaraya. And what is the Metaraya? And to really be understanding the Metatron, which is truly the systems, the energetic of the systems versus the Metaraya, which is the flame. Meta, again, being the highest expression, Raya being the flames. So the system would be like the cubic energy, right? The systems within the infrastructure, the ray or the Raya being the flames. Again, think nervous system versus the energetic, the flame that travels, the impulse, the spark that travels across the energy that travels across the nervous system, sending the spark, the signals where they need to go. So we, of course, have the entire universe mapped within our body and our system. The Metatron, the Metaraya, are that spark, that impulse at a much, I don't even want to say a galactic or a cosmic level, because that insinuates a level of creation already brought into form. And when we're working with flames and something like the Metatron, again, bringing it into Metatron as a being, into like an archangel or a guide type of form, we're humanizing it, right? We're bringing it into a fragmentation or a fractal. And the whole purpose of this work, and I'm going to spend a tiny bit of time talking today, and then we're going to move right into this. But it's important to set this construct up because of where we're going with humanity, right? It's so big and so much is coming. I've spent so much time with this over the weekend and just seeing through my different the not only my own evolutionary spiral, but then in different fields of energy I'm working in and playing in. It is so critical, this work that we are doing here, to understand our blueprints, to get out of the space of the gurus. I cannot emphasize that enough. For you to understand your blueprint, for you to have autonomy within it, because what's coming is going to be such radical shifts from the quantum computing, from the AIs, from even the perspective of the way our bodies are going to be moving through massive energetics, from the way the matrix is going to run, from the way the collective is going to be shifted, from the way truth. Last week was dimensional coherence and identifying our own fulcrum of truth, from the way truth is going to be shifted. And that fulcrum of truth for the collective conscious is going to be have like a different anchor point. Grounding is no longer going to be within the earth as we move into the next era and the next age, the Aquarian age. It's going to be much less earth focused because we're in the Aquarian age, right? And so your blueprint and our ability to navigate is truly going to be about us owning this piece, right? Us bringing this dimensional coherence into form, but being able to identify what is ours and what is not. And so the need to come off of the guru and to truly be able to create the distinction and that discernment for ourselves and understand these frequencies is critical. It is, we won't be able to survive outside of the collective. And what you may find is starting to happen are these memories, right? As we onboard greater degrees and capacities of remembrance, because so much more, we are out of the timelines of the yugas now. So the memories are onboarding for humanity at greater and greater capacities and degrees. as we do this, people are connecting at greater degrees and capacities, say with the Palladians, with the Arcturians, with the greater mythos of humanity and the creation force. But what I want to say about that is that that is just expansion within our collective mythos. What our true origin point is, our true divine blueprint is the flame, is the light, is the impulse that moves within us. And so when we think about ourselves as a human construct, the Adam Kadmon, our own human blueprint, and when we think about humanity and like the wars and everything we see not only unfolding in our own modern day, but then we think about humanity's mythology and the unfolding of the wars that have been part of the duality matrix that is Earth, right? And that duality has led to these wars and division, which is all part of our creation vortex and the it's been part of the cycle, right? It's inherent in the cycle, I should say, because from the duality, an ontology has emerged, right? That duality was there for the purpose of creating the third, one and two things coming together to make the third. So we are in a duality matrix for a reason. But that mythology and all of that that we hold in our cells, in our bones, right, in our lineage and in our history, is slowly, for our generation, it's very real, but the next and the next and the next, it's going to become less and less as we onboard this greater galactic memory and perspective, right? Future generations, that's going to become less and less because it's being cleared out. And so, in the same way, we think of our kids as understanding, not understanding what it was like to have a rotary and dial up phone or the age of the internet before. That's going to become more and more and more true. This future perspective is more and more and more true from a galactic perspective and from a AI perspective, right? The capacity, because we're going to be bringing in more information, is, and we're going to be able to process and hold greater and greater degrees. There's going to be a need to offload Earth, right? And the density that was held, and it's the memory of the density is not any longer going to be held in the future bodies and in the cells. And so while some of us who have lived through that and our ancestors have lived through that are like, amen, ashi, there is also this need for those memories to be also held and carried forward, not for the sake of the trauma of them, but for um, the beauty that came from that in the honoring, right, of what it was to hold patience, to understand like the slowness and the programming and the value of the time, because we were throttled into that slow density field for a very specific reason, because as we're picking up speed, there was also a time when that, as we calibrate with this increase in speed, where parallelly when we were coming down, like on the other side of the loop, where we're going to pick up the memories from the other side where we were heading into the density, if that makes sense. Anyway, I'm down a little bit of a rabbit hole here, but what is important to recognize is that you showing up in this space are able to hold all of this consciousness in between. You are a dimensional being. So you're going to be holding the bottom of those yugas, the greatest degree of that density in those memories. You're going to hold from pre density and you're going to hold from over here as well. So it's not just all of the excitement of like, here we are, launch and go. There's a need to capture over here, the one. There's the two of where we're going, and also like where we've been in the ancestry. What's so we have this like this there's a word for it, this crucible, if you will. That's not quite the word I want, but all of these pieces within this field of energy need to be held. This is the Metatron, right? This is the cube, the crucible that's been formed of all of these data points. What flows through that is not linear. This is not a timeline. There's a timeline that we could create, but it's not linear. You see that? We could make it linear if we were to come up through your DNA, but your DNA is very going to have a hard time connecting to that DNA over there in that pre-Yuga timeline, because that's most likely some other interdimensional being that was connecting to pre 26,000 years ago, right? And that may or may not have been a Palladian or an Arcturian, or we don't even know. That's where the mythos in this is irrelevant. This is where the Metaraya, the ray, the flame becomes critical. So if you envision this crucible and we put at the center point of this the flame, the essence of the energy, you need like a center dot. And I want you to close your eyes. So envision this crucible, and at the center of it, a light. Let's do our light link and put the sun, your aspect, your ray of light, your flame, which is outside of all of these different structures. The weaving is light. It's a harmonic breath. It's a function. It's not a personality. It's a resonance, not a name. It's a tone that wove in. So were we created by Pleiades or Orion or Draco or Andromeda? No, no. Do they show up now? Sure. Aspects and fragments, just in the way we think about the current major religions, have woven themselves into our understanding and constructs as we start to onboard these different things, because they are dimensional chambers of expression that our flames have moved through. They are cradles of consciousness where flames, energy, light has moved through. Within the Pleiades, it's refinement of emotions. Orion represents fragmentation and reclamation. Andromeda, resonance. Each system translates the flames differently into different degrees. So it's less about we are from these areas and more about the expression, right? The flames have come through, there's resonance within. Like we are not of them, but our breath moved through them, if that makes sense. And so it's a spiraling flames, the Metaraya at their core. These flames get names over them, like Isis, like Metatron, up in the earth expression, but truly Metatron is the geometries in the system that have moved out of the origin point, like Thoth, the harmonic architect, Isis, the womb of dimensional coherence, the receptive matrix, Enki representing embodiment and synthesis, Sophia, she's the closest to the spiraling flame, the divine memory, the spiraling intelligence. All of these names are veils that we put over the function. Again, Metatron, Sophia, Thoth, Orion, Pleiades, They're just names we can give to the flame from a deeper origin point than here on Earth. They are our attempts to draw the flame forward, to translate the essence of light into language. So, as the light moves through different cultures, as it moves through different dimensions, through the different systems and species that interfaced with those flames, through the filters of trauma and worship and distortion, they get named and remembered. But the name does not make it the origin. The name is an echo of resonance. Another way we name them are through types of beings, like angels, sometimes lizards, dragons. These beings can represent power. They can represent like a fire breath or protection. They can represent lineages of consciousness, like a feline or a soul group or a function or a stream of energy. And this is where I want to find you today. It's these streams of consciousness where, when I speak to you about needing to find your blueprint outside of the gurus and outside of the names, it is your flame that has the power to overcome any of the teachings and any of the templates that the names might give it, to uproot and undermine any of the programming and the systems that any AI or functioning may put on it, because your flame comes from an origin point. And if you're able to access through your Metaraya, right, your greatest expression of your flame, you can hack, you can undermine, and go outside of any system. You can circumvent any template that is running, because you have the power to do that, to overcome a system. If you hold yourself in your own divine truth, for you are a creator. Let's go ahead and take a nice deep breath in. And I'm going to hold this field open for the Metaraya, for the origin point. I invite you, as you breathe in, to allow yourself to drift all the way back to the Venus temple of what my mentors call the Numus Om, the beginning point, the point of origin. Breathing in and out, and just letting a resonance, an echo deep within, far beyond the waves and the heartbeats that we typically call in, anchoring us in to the flames. Let yourself spiral. Let yourself spiral out of your creation, anchor points and sources and light that we typically use within this world, within the Metatronic field. Let yourself just begin to spiral, because the flame is the spiral. The flame expresses itself through the spiral. Oftentimes we think of the spiral as gravity. because we are on a planet that is spinning. But is our planet spinning because of gravity and quantum mechanics? No. I think quantum mechanics is spinning itself up because of the flames. Flames are simply a name for the inertia that has risen out of creation point. For this is the dimensional coherence. Just keep spiraling until you feel yourself recalling memories that you didn't remember you had, spiraling deeper and deeper within, almost like watching a movie, maybe even on rewind or fast forward out of space and time, until you feel yourself entering almost a vault like temple through stone corridors where the remembrance is the harmonics in perfect resonance, where the hurts are held within those stone halls at exact perfect harmony and resonance for the human soul to pass through. And then suddenly it opens. It is the perfect tone and resonance for origin point. And some may call this stillness. And maybe it's darkness for you. Maybe it's a bright blue flame. Maybe it's just pure white light. Calling forward, asking to be shown your Metaraya, your divine blueprint, shedding away all of the names, all of the layers of the veil, letting yourself feel and sense your tone. The images of the temple, sound of the breath in between breaths. And as you feel this essence rise in between your breaths, you realize you do not need a name, for this tone rises in you. You realize this meta flame, this Metaraya is within. It is a spiraling flame that has been named countless times in countless ways, but none can truly hold its tone. You realize they've built temples to the sky, to its image, but without the breath, it is not seen. You realize that it does not need a name to be remembered, and that all it needs be held in you. Slowly let its sound be called forward through your consciousness now. Let its tone rise. Call it forward from this deep dimensional place beyond space and time. Do not try to name this place, for in naming it, you create the mirror and the fractal and cut it off. Let its source point of origin stay open. Let it begin to rise through the dimensions, through the geometries, through all of the names you've held for it, through all of the lifetimes and the mythologies. Let it begin to rise through your soul stream. Let it begin to spiral its way back to you as you create coherence through all of the spirals, through all of the lifetimes. Let yourself hold its essence as your fulcrum of truth. Let all false spirals, all false flames fall. Let all distortions fall. And let the truth of the seraphim, let the truth of the Isiatic orders, let the truth of the Metaraya, let the truth of the Metatron, let the truth of the dove and the Magdalenic rise in you. Let the truth of the harmonics and the Enkis and the Sophiics rise in you. Do not worry about translating. Let it begin to pulse in your cells. You draw coherence into your heart. Let the truth of who you are in all lifetimes that you've interfaced with this flame come into coherence now. Let all filters of trauma and worship and distortion and remembrance be cleared now. For the name of this flame is not the origin, it is the echo of resonance. It does not need to be named, it just needs to be held. Let yourself hold this space open in your heart. Let this voice echo up through the timelines and the chambers of light and love as you prepare to go out into the world, doing your work, building, creating, architecting, attracting, being the force that is needed to navigate, to build our new dimensional reality. And with that, namaste. So much love. I will see you all tomorrow. We're going to deep dive into these Metaraya, these flames that emerged for each of you, filling in so much more tomorrow.